In this week's Bleach, it looks like the end for Ichigo.
It's gonna be nothing but pain for you from here on in.
Bleach chapter 679, The End, starts with Bach repeating that his ability doesn't see the future, but changes it. He says they shouldn't be alarmed since it's no different than the powers they possess since they can only influence one instant before their eyes.
That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard.
The only difference is that he can influence the entirety of fate he sees in his eyes. He goes on to say that the only reason Ichigo ever overcame despair in the past is because he wasn't there.
Why don't you say something constructive for a change, like what we should do now?
Because I don't like you.
But he does advise Ichigo to try and change the future since he'll see how great of a future it is. And then he'll chop it down himself.
Man, that's just mean. That's mean, man.
He wants Ichigo to despair, and that's exactly what he does as he lets out a yell.
You've done it now. You're triggering me!
We then cut to Ishida and Haschwalth, who explains that his letter is B, the balance. By taking in any misfortune in his area and giving it to those with charmed lives, he can maintain balance in the world.
Think about that. That's just dumb.
He can also take any damage and redirect it into his shield. Ishida has no chance of beating him, so he decides that this will be the end for him unless he can get more answers out of him.
I ain't saying nothing.
But what do I tell the doctor?
Tell him to suck a lemon.
But Ishida finally stands and wants to know if Haschwalth would like to see his letter. Haschwalth says he would have used it by now if it meant victory, but Ishida tells him now is the perfect time.
Such heroic nonsense.
Ishida reveals his letter is A, the antithesis, and suddenly Haschwalth's body erupts and slashes.
That fucking hurts!
Ishida explains that the antithesis can reverse anything that has happened between two designated targets, so he reversed the damage between the two of them. Haschwalth is impressed and thinks that it might even be useful against Bach.
Well, about time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail.
Ishida tries to leave, but Haschwalth gets up as he won't let him get away so easily.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
The antithesis is a poor matchup against the balance since he was able to redirect his own misfortune back on Ishida, then the damage he took was taken by his shield.
If it hits you, is it my point or yours? Well, I'm winning then, I guess.
This causes more misfortune to fall upon Ishida as Haschwalth repeats that he has no chance of winning.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist.
He assumes Ishida's come to the conclusion that he is no match for him or Bach despite that he's still trying to escape.
You're trying to crawl away. Bring me that gas.
Haschwalth prepares to stab Ishida, but we cut away to Ichigo getting his ass kicked by Bach.
Say uncle! Uncle!
Bach grabs Ichigo by the back of the head and is surprised he has no more fight in him since he expected more.
All right, you two, get the hell out of my house. It's over.
Ichigo thinks to himself that his sword has no effect and neither does Orihime's shield. He knows that it's over for the both of them.
War has a knack for wearing your mind down.
Bach then decides it's time Ichigo return the power he so graciously gave to him.
That's my face, you idiot!
We got a decent chapter this week. Most of the time was spent with Haschwalth versus Ishida, where we finally got the reveal of both their letters' power. I think 99.9% of Bleach fans guessed Haschwalth would be the balance, but Ishida's antithesis was not what I was expecting, but it makes total sense. He really is the opposite of Haschwalth in a majority of Quincy's with his opposing ideals. With that, being able to reverse damage taken onto his opponent seems like a logical power for him. Haschwalth said this ability could stand up to Bach, but like 4 pages later, he says Ishida must realize he can't be either of them. So can the antithesis be a game changer or not? My guess is yes, because he can reverse anything between two targets. If those targets are Bach and Ichigo, it could shift the battle dramatically.
That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Please, let me handle this. That idea is just the worst.
And I don't have too much to say on Ichigo and Bach. Ichigo has fallen into despair for the millionth time, even though this is probably the worst case of it happening. He's completely given up, which he never did, even in the face of Ulquiorra or Aizen. And now Bach is going to take away his Quincy powers. How this will affect Ichigo is beyond me. Could this lead to a berserk hollow Ichigo coming out? Or maybe the Zangetsu spirit will try to reject Bach somehow in order to protect Ichigo. Losing his Quincy powers could have major implications on the future of this fight, so I look forward forward to seeing what will become of Ichigo if Bach does succeed in taking back his power. I do want Ichigo to bounce back though. It's really depressing to see him in such a state.
Give the fucking guy some water. He's black. He's been through a lot.
So I'll give this chapter a 7.5 out of 10. The antithesis proves to be a powerful ability for Ishida, but Haschwalth's balance is too much to handle, and Ichigo has sunk into total despair. For my question of the week, how will Ichigo be affected if Bach successfully manages to take all of Ichigo's Quincy powers? Favorite comments always featured in the next review. Here are last week's winners. Alright, that does it for me. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. I'll be back next week with more to spare. Peace.